Start your engines.
A championship lead of 25 points for Nigel Mansell in the IndyCar series with 5 races to go. Nigel in peerless form with back-to-back victories on ovals. Now for the run-in to the title. Leading the opposition, the 46-year-old veteran Emerson Fittipaldi, determined to add another championship to his impressive collection. His teammate Paul Tracy has come of age this year. He may look like a studious college boy, but he's a tough, brilliant young talent. For Nigel, it's been a good couple of weeks on the track and off it at Road America in Wisconsin. For the race fans, as usual, he was the center of attention. For his family too, naturally. And there were old friends about as well. Derek Warwick over from Europe during a gap in the Formula One schedule, receiving good vibes on the Indy scene.
You're here in the paddock this weekend and everybody's smiling. You know, everybody's enjoying it. Everybody's remembered why they're here. They're here because they love their sport.
1 week after Road America, it was back on the streets again, as for the third and last time this season, the Indy Series crossed the American border to Canada for round 13 at Vancouver in British Columbia. But it turned out to be America's race. Alonso Jr. claiming his first victory for 15 months. Hard work for Nigel. He picked up valuable points from one of the toughest street races he'd ever encountered. He had to battle his way through the field to stay at the head of the championship table. The title almost within reach as the season approaches a thrilling climax. And a new experience for the champion, taking off from the water for an aerial sightseeing trip. At Nazareth, Pennsylvania on September the 19th, ambition achieved. Nigel Mansell, the first rookie to win the IndyCar title, the first man ever to win Formula One and IndyCar championships back to back.
Fantastic! We won the championship! Yes! You won it!
Congratulations from his greatest supporter. A remarkable season, a remarkable man. He'd recover from that crash at Phoenix in April to clinch the title 6 months later. A magnificent achievement, and he'll be going for a repeat next year.
I'm gonna have a drink like there's no tomorrow. and I'm a teetotal for 14 years, and I know it'll only take 2 and I'll be anybody's.
It's absolutely terrific. Nigel did an outstanding job. I mean, he didn't worry about a couple of points. He just went for the whole thing. As they say in the States, the whole enchilada.
August in Wisconsin, the perfect time to stage a major sporting event in the state before the onset of winter, when, as they say, the locals move out of their cabins and burrow up for the duration. Wisconsin is hardly the most metropolitan area of the United States, but it does have a fine racetrack, Road America, a demanding circuit, 4 miles long, 14 turns with climbs and dips. Nigel arrived at Elkhart Lake almost 2 weeks after that fine win at New Hampshire, his second in succession on an oval, giving him a 25-point lead in the championship, with the Penske pair, Fittipaldi and Tracy, both having clocked up a century of points. For Nigel, Elkhart Lake was again uncharted territory. Advantage Penske. Emerson won here last year, and Paul Tracy holds the lap record. The Newman Haas team arrived at the circuit a day earlier than normal to allow Nigel the opportunity of a quick recce. Learning the long circuit with all its intricacies takes time, and time cannot be spared during practice and qualifying. Of all of America's road circuits, this is the fastest, the most challenging.
1, 2, 3, 4. Do you have a copy? Great copy. I'm right behind the pits now, going up the hill underneath the bridge. So, copy you real good, Jim.
Nigel's teammate Mario Andretti had tested on the circuit a few weeks before, and the team had gleaned some useful information from that session. But for Nigel, this was all new. After a couple of laps of familiarization, he was ready to go. Look at this lap from the champion's view.
Past the start and finish line. Flat in 5th gear, you're doing now 190, 195 miles an hour. Breaking down to 3rd gear into the right-hander. Accelerating as quick as you can. And now you go down the hill up to 4th. Braking from about 170 down to 3rd again. Around another right-hander. Very slippy around here. Accelerating out a little bit slower into 4th. And now just under the bridge and now into 5th. And now you're getting upwards of 200 miles an hour and you start dropping downhill again. Going down and braking about 300 yards right down to 2nd gear to left-hand hairpin. Round here, bit of understeer, pushing it out there on the throttle. 3rd gear, under the bridge, down to 2nd again, keeping it in tight. A lot of understeer here, accelerating 3rd, flicking it round here now, trying to go flat out round here. Now you drop down the hill in 4th gear. Again approaching this 170, down to 2nd. And now round this corner, very important, accelerating 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and into the carousel. This is like the Bosch curve of the Österreich ring in Austria years ago, incredibly. Flat out now out of here and approaching what they call the kink at 180 miles an hour into 5th. And this kink now is almost flat, it's incredible. And now you're getting upwards of 200 miles an hour again, dropping down, coming to a right-hander now that you're taking 2nd gear, braking hard. 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Accelerating out of here, uphill again underneath the bridge, 3rd, into 4th now, and then just holding it, staying 3rd, into 4th, and now braking hard again down to 3rd, accelerating around the corner. Now you've got to go uphill again, you can see in the distance, you've got to climb the hill.
Nigel quickest in first qualifying, almost a second faster around the 4 miles than anyone else.
Massage this thing as much as we possibly can do.
Just got to go racing.
And we just got to race what we've got.
That's good.
I mean, for him to do 47.4, awesome. He's just plonking down, you know.
Paul Tracy was limping around the paddock after a crash in practice, bruising both legs. His right ankle, injured earlier at Long Beach, was especially sore. A year ago at Elkhart Lake, Tracy started from pole position. Amazing, considering he'd hurtled off the circuit during practice. A big crash, disaster only narrowly averted for both driver and spectators. In second qualifying this time at Elkhart Lake, Tracy snatched pole position by 0.4 of a second.
It's going to be tough to win the championship if Nigel finishes every race, but you know it still can be done with the way the points are put out. I think if we can get a couple more wins, and maybe Nigel has some DNFs, that will be right there. But if Nigel finishes every race, it's going to be very tough and it's going to make for a great finish.
Fittipaldi won last year, having led for 41 of the 50 laps, but he was pushed all the way to the checkered flag by Al Unser Jr., just 0.7 of a second behind as they crossed the finishing line. Mario Andretti, 5th last year at Elkhart Lake with Emerson. Between them, they've been racing for 70 years. Another pretty experienced race driver, Britain's Derek Warwick, 143 Formula One Grand Prix, but maybe his future is in IndyCar racing.
Formula One now has got to a situation where if you're not in the top 3 or 4 teams, you're not going to win a race. And, you know, why am I a race driver? You know, I want to win races. And I think that somehow I feel that if you're in a top 10 team over here, you can get lucky and win a Grand Prix. And I suppose I've decided that this is where I want to go for my future. You know, Nigel has created a lot of interest throughout Europe, and I think all the Formula One drivers are aware of Indy, and it's only just now that everybody's starting to come over and just see what it's all about. The thing that comes across to me is you're here in the paddock this weekend, and everybody's smiling. You know, everybody's enjoying it. Everybody's remembered why they're here. They're here because they love their sport. And I think, to a certain extent, we've lost that a little bit in Formula One. We need to get it back into Formula One, and I'm sure we could get it back, but it's not there at the moment. You know, and that's the two differences.
Derek's one of the most popular of all the Grand Prix stars. He'd fit in well on the Indy circuit.
If you look at the front end, like Bobby Rahal and Mario Andretti at 53, God, I hope I'm that good at 53. You know, there's a lot of talent out here, and just because it's America doesn't mean to say, you know, that they're all just, you know, IndyCar racers and that's it. And I think what's happened is, you know, Michael has come to England, and because of a lot of circumstances, he's not been quick. So there's a lot of people out there that think that IndyCar racing's easy and that we ought to get over there because we're just going to blow everybody away. But the reality of that, I'm afraid, is quite different. You know, everybody always says, you know, what would you like someone like Mansell or Senna as your teammate? Well, I would, you know, because am I any good? Who knows? You know, until I'm actually in the team with a teammate of that caliber, who knows? So, you know, yes, I jump at the chance.
Road America makes special demands on the cars, especially in fuel consumption. Thirsty cars don't usually finish, as Michael Andretti discovered 4 years ago. Andretti had led for most of the race, but then he ran dry. Danny Sullivan swept through to snatch victory on the very last lap. It cost Andretti at least 13 points and perhaps second place in the championship. For Sullivan, a heartening result in a middling season, only a year after winning the title. But it was a chastening experience for Andretti and the Newman Haas team. It's team manager Jim McGee's job to advise Mansell over the radio on fuel consumption during every race.
You can go to 9 o'clock on the fuel if you want, Nigel. 9 o'clock.
What I'm going to tell you about and show you is the fuel adjuster in here. You probably heard us talking in the race, Jim McGee telling me 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock on the fuel settings. What we have here is the knob for the fuel. That currently is at 9 o'clock. When we have a yellow flag, we put it at 6 o'clock, and what it does, in fact, it makes the mixture leaner, and we save fuel. And what we try and do is get maximum fuel efficiency on the slow laps. And then obviously for the engine to run really efficient, we put it at 12 o'clock, which is basically 100%. The engine's getting 100% fuel. And I can't tell you the percentages, what they are at 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock, but obviously it's a lot leaner. So that's the way we save fuel. The other way of saving fuel is this is the boost knob right here, which is above the fuel knob. And you just turn that anti-clockwise, that reduces boost. But the best way to conserve fuel is come off the power a little bit on the accelerator, and of course leaning the engine off. The only thing you must remember when you lean the engine off, though, you can lose a little bit of power and you can put the temperatures of the engine up a little bit. So that's what all the RT is with 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock and so on. Very, very important part of the race.
And we're green. Paul Tracy surges again to the front of the field. Nigel Mansell chases. Andretti battles for third place against Raul Boisel as Mansell comes in right behind Paul Tracy. And Tracy leads him through the first corner. Now downhill and a tremendous set of elevation changes at this track. Emerson Fittipaldi looking for racing room as he closes in as well.
Robbie Gordon actually went outside Emerson in that turn one, but we're inside with Mansell very briefly, right up behind Tracy.
Paul Tracy now has to hold off as Nigel Mansell does everything he can under heavy braking coming down into Station 5. Mario Andretti ducks inside of Nigel Mansell. They climb the hill still in the same order.
Look at Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon is flying on this opening lap.
Gordon gets around Al Unser Jr., comes up to the top of the hill. The rest of the field comes through safely. Now Paul Tracy begins to pull away a little bit. Keep an eye on that black car of Robbie Gordon as he lines up behind Raul Boisel.
Look at Robbie Gordon.
Robbie Gordon comes in to challenge Andretti while at the same time Fittipaldi was challenging Lyondike. Gordon off the course again. It gives the position back to Andretti. Second time off the course today for Gordon. Now he's right back at Andretti.
Experienced in off-track racing, so he spends lots of time on the grass and on the dirt. But on IndyCars, you got to keep those 4 black patches on the road. But Gordon, ever spectacular, but he just went in too deep under the braking. Look at the cue behind, though. Rahal goes inside Guerrero.
Arie Luyendyk pulls up right behind Gordon, as does Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal came alongside a slower car, appeared to be Guerrero, so he could get a good run into the carousel in a critical section of the race course. There is Rahal as he makes that turn into the corner, and once again, a wheel dropped off. Here comes Gordon running through.
That wasn't Gordon that time. That was one of the Newman Haas cars. Mansell or Andretti stuck a wheel off the track onto that dirt.
Paul Tracy has acknowledged the white flag at the start-finish line, indicating one more lap to go. Mario Andretti made it back into the pits. They're still working on his car. Arie Luyendyk made it back into the pits. They did replace that tire, and he is back into the competition. And Scott Goodyear also made it, limping back into the pits as well. But we are on the final lap for Paul Tracy, looking for his 4th win this season, and a road course win once again. Nigel Mansell will continue in the points lead if they finish in this order, as one assumes they will. But Paul Tracy is certainly showing his power, and if he was sent out as the rabbit, he took it all the way to the checkered flag for Roger Penske.
And he is the walking wounded. Walking, not when he's in the racing car. He's been on crutches since that terrible crash on Friday here. Somebody else is off the road big time, but Paul Tracy in the car doesn't seem to have too much trouble.
No one in contest at the top of the order. Tracy followed by Mansell, followed by Ray Hall and Vosell. Fittipaldi picks up some good luck and moves into 5th place. He climbs the hill for the final time today in the Texaco Haviland 200. And Paul Tracy acknowledges the checker and takes the win. Watching for Nigel Mansell now. His wife happy with that one, of course. Here comes Mansell. Final set of corners. Already he waves at the workers of one of the corner stations. Not in contest with anyone. He climbs the hill. The checkered flag waits for Nigel Mansell, who will continue his point lead by 31 PPG points over Emerson Fittipaldi.
He suspected going into this race that it would be very, very difficult to beat Paul Tracy in that Penske, so he had to go into point scoring mode because this championship is so important to him.
Well, you just got me out of the car. There's not much you could do about that race, could I? Penske was just fabulous. He was flying. We worked pretty hard and tried to give him a hard time on the opening laps. And then on the restart, but then the first pit stop, he must have had a real good clean pit stop because I never saw him again. It's a lonely race, that one. You know, very happy. That's how championships hopefully are won, just by collecting the points. Today's 2nd place for me is very valuable. I don't mind him winning the next 4 races if I come 2nd or 3rd. I think adding the points up, that will be okay. You know, I said yesterday the Penske would be very, very quick, and I think Paul proved how quick it is today. He drove great. We've just got to pay very special attention with what we have to work with, and as I say, I've got no complaints at all today. It's just that we weren't quick enough, we weren't competitive, but everything worked beautifully, and you know, I'm just happy to have been 2nd.
In the last week of August, the Indy entourage travelled north to British Columbia to race for only the 4th time ever around Pacific Place in Vancouver. Constant reminders of the country's history, set amongst spectacular scenery. The giant pines dominating the surrounding countryside, breathtaking glimpses of the gorgeous surroundings from the Capilano Suspension Bridge, a must for the thousands of visitors who trek to Vancouver for the race. Undoubtedly the best way to travel in these parts. Nigel had a brief opportunity to indulge his fascination for aircraft and flying when he took off from False Creek for a short visit to nearby Victoria Island. A moment's peace before getting down to the hectic, noisy business of driving racing cars at breakneck speed. Ready for the first practice on this tricky 1.7-mile street circuit. 2 long straights with tight hairpins at either end and a series of flat-out curves. Being a street circuit, it has a collection of nasty bumps. Lying 3rd fastest in practice, Nigel had a rare disconcerting moment. Lack of grip was a factor from the start. In Saturday qualifying, Red 5 made the acquaintance of Willie T. Ribb's Lola, and as a result, the spare T-car was brought out, and relations between Nigel and Willie remained cordial. Nigel qualified 3rd.
Well, that was an eventful morning. I had a big coming together with Willie T. Ribbs, and it wasn't Willie's fault because he was going slow on the outside, and he didn't see me coming down on the inside and just turned in, and I hit the back end of his car. It wasn't his fault, it's just one of those things, and but the nice thing was it forced me back into the backup car, and the backup car is better than the race car, so, you know, I'm just really happy and very pleased that we've had a good morning this morning.
Andrea Montemini, once lead driver in the Mansell Madgwick F3000 team, qualified well, 7th in only his 3rd IndyCar race. Fine progress for the young Italian. Paul Tracy was alongside Nigel on row 2. Robbie Gordon was to start from 6th on row 3. Emerson, 10th fastest, but he still manages his familiar grin. And he's anxious to tell the one about the racing driver who couldn't start. And it was Scott Goodyear who claimed pole, only the 2nd of his career and the first Canadian to do so for a race in Canada. And the best qualifying performance for the team so far, Bobby Rahal, 2nd quickest.
It's really tough, as I say, A, getting a clear lap, and B, it's you know, it's got a lot of fast corners, so you have to get the car set for those, but then it's got a lot of slow corners too, so it's...
I got him.
People are going to talk about us when you keep that up. But I knew he was breathing down my neck, so I had to, you know, get going.
So, what about tomorrow? What 105 laps?
It's a hard race. It's a fun race, but traffic is so key and passing is so difficult. I mean, it's a last year was a demolition derby. You know, I saw Emerson and Al Jr. go over the top of each other, and I thought, well, that takes care of them, and they started right up and kept going again. So it's going to be hard. I'm just glad that we're up in the front because I've started here 6th, 7th, 8th before, and it's bad. I'd like to resurrect or end this year on a high note, I guess, after all the troubles early on, and you know, it's just this enthuses you. You know, it excites everybody when you're running well, and just you know, next year we won't make the same mistakes we made this year, that's for sure, and start out strong and hopefully don't give up.
Any advice for the gentleman to your left who's never raced in Vancouver?
Slow down, be very careful when you pass, signal when you pass.
And don't forget,
he's going to do fine, believe me.
Next year he's going to have the Honda engine with another 40 horsepower.
That'd be nice.
He'll be smiling all next year. But no, I think it's fabulous that Bobby's on the front row with Scott Goodyear. I think for the championship, it's very good for me, and you know, I wouldn't mind at all sort of just following them all the way home tomorrow. Just get those valuable points and keep in front of the Penske's. But have a great one tomorrow,
Thanks, mate. All right, cheers.
Well, good morning and welcome to Vancouver. I mean, fantastic venue for the 13th round of the PPG IndyCar World Series, and it's been an eventful weekend already. We had a little incident the other day with Willie T. Ribbs forcing me into the backup car, the spare car, which was a bit nerve-wracking in point of fact, because the time I had on the first day we had to disqualify ourselves because that's the regulations here, and we went up into the backup car yesterday, but fortunately it was a little bit better than my race car, so I mean, sometimes these things work out for the better. Today, expectations really, from looking at the video of last year, we just really want to stay out of trouble. There's a bit of bumper cars last year, there's lots of small incidents, and really all I want to do is finish and collect those valuable points towards the championship.
Goodyear, Rahal, Tracy, the top three. And another good start from Gordon promoted him to 4th as Nigel stuck to his pre-race plan to stay out of trouble and race for points. The first full course yellow occurred very early in the race, the track blocked by a 3-car incident involving Gruyère, Johnny Unser and Jeff Wood.
he must have blown the engine or something. Emerson's in 11th position. Okay, that's good.
From the restart, Goodyear resumed in the lead. Tracy had slipped past Rahal into second place as they lapped the circuit in under a minute. Tracy simply barged through into the lead. Hot on his tail, Rahal followed him through for second place.
Rahal now moves on Tracy. Bobby Rahal makes a move and picks off Tracy going into the first corner.
Nigel Mansell, intent on making the finish, stayed out of trouble, running fifth, well in the points and poised to capitalize should any of the leaders fail. Then disaster for Tracy. Having lost the lead, he slowed to a crawl with mechanical problems. Nigel in the pits for the first time, but the car stalled. He lost 5 places, down to 10th. Fittipaldi was meanwhile dicing with Boesel for 5th. Fittipaldi lucky to still be going. He'd all but collided with Alonso Jr. on his way into the pits. New leader Alonso Jr. made his second stop 2 laps later than anyone else. Good tactics. He was in and out without losing first place. Rahal, enjoying his best race for weeks, stormed after Unser, leaving the rest of the field 10 seconds and more adrift. But this was Unser's race, driving to victory for the second time at Vancouver. He'd never been out of the top 3 here. Nigel Mansell, ahead of Fittipaldi, was content with 6th place. Another 8 points in the bag, and the championship lead increased by 2. Goodyear was 4th, his best finish of the season, behind Stefan Johansson 3rd, a repeat of last year's performance for the Swede. Alonso's 19th career victory. It's been a long time coming. His last victory was at Indianapolis itself in 1992. This was just as sweet. Bobby Rahal 2nd, a welcome return to form and consistency for the defending champion. In pit road, quiet satisfaction for Newman Haas.
How many points over Emmo do I get today? Just 2 points. 2 points.
And afterwards, reflections on a job well done.
Tough one, huh?
That's right, went in the right, gained 2 points.
What was the result?
Plus 33. Plus 30. Junior won, Rahal was 2nd, Scott Goodyear was 3rd. Okay, and then Johansson, and then Mario and yourself.
In victory lane, little Al welcomed back by his wife Shelley, and later by the team's celebrity backer.
For whatever reasons, the team has been struggling this year, and you know, of course, we were hoping, but I think deep down we were kind of really surprised. I shouldn't say that.
That was one of the
Peter Murphy coming.
toughest races I've had. I mean, I'm just happy I kept the car at the wars. Oh.
Now for Mid-Ohio, where last year Emerson Fittipaldi won from Paul Tracy by 10 seconds. Obviously a track that suits the Penskes. Maybe in 1993 it would be a win for Red 5 again, but this time with Nigel Mansell in the cockpit. He could be just one race away from achieving his ambition: Formula One and IndyCar titles in successive seasons. Fittipaldi leading the challenge to Nigel Mansell going into Mid-Ohio, round 14 of 16. Paul Tracy needing a win to revive his chances. The rest, realistically, playing for positions. As expected, the Penskes were in determined mood. Fittipaldi was quick in the first session of qualifying on the Friday. And teammate Tracy was even faster. The team was optimistic that they could take maximum points and put the pressure on Nigel on the run into the championship. This was going to be quite a spectacle. But the team spirit at Newman Haas is second to none. And in Saturday's final qualifying session, Nigel was encouraged to go for pole. but for most of the hour and a quarter, the Penske's held the front row positions. Paul Newman, race fan and team owner, delighted to have seen his man Nigel Mansell in action at almost every venue throughout the year. And this venue was reminiscent of some circuits in Europe.
Getting ready for the qualifying lap, very quick over here, second and third onto the short straight, fourth, keeping it in fourth now around a left-hander, very fast, 160 miles an hour. Coming out, sliding out over the curb, keeping the foot hard in there, up to fifth gear, up to 180, down to a second gear, right-hand hairpin. As you can see, you drop down here, you're sliding out, holding on the power, second, third on exit, fourth, fifth, and now the quickest part of the section now. Straight down here, a little bit of a kink, 195 miles an hour until you brake hard, down to second gear, round the right-hander, slip sliding a little bit, up the hill a little bit, over the crest of the brow, reminding me a little bit of Brands Hatch, down the hill, keeping it in second, exiting now into third quickly, then up over another rise in third, flat out, you can hear the engine revs go up, now round the next brow, third gear, over the hill again, up to fourth, 170, down to third, round here very quick now, got to keep your concentration into a hairpin, down to second again, tucking in real tight, trying to keep the car in there, getting on the power, second, third, and up to fourth, and just hopefully it might just pip the Penske's off the front row.
And it did. The moment of realization. Pole position to Mansell, beating Tracy by 0.14 of a second and bumping Fittipaldi off the front row. A dramatic session. 4 drivers laid claim to pole in the last 3 minutes, but when it mattered most, it was Nigel Mansell.
That might be the most valuable pole position we've had all year. We gained another point. I mean, there's hardly anything in it at all, and I mean, it puts us 34 points in front going into this race. The team just did a beautiful job. I mean, we did some changes on the car, which you might have seen, and one of the changes was a backward step, the other changes was a forward step, so I mean, I'm just really thrilled that we just pipped the Penske's off the pole, because they were strong, and what can I say except, oh boy, I'm happy at this time, and it's going to be a real interesting race tomorrow, so no mistakes tomorrow, no problems hopefully, and we'll just see what happens.
A rare moment of relaxation in a hectic season. Practice for a charity softball game due to be staged the following week at Nazareth. Nigel's more used to hitting a stationary golf ball than emulating Babe Ruth. But he's an excellent all-round sportsman, and he soon got the hang of this. Unfortunately, he had to pull out of the big match against a team of drag racers. He just couldn't risk being injured prior to such an important race. No lack of enthusiasm among the competitors.
All right, Rob! Yeah!
Willie T. Ribbs giving vocal encouragement. Matsushita looked as though he needed it. And Emerson Fittipaldi more used to handling a gear stick than a baseball bat. Nigel, meanwhile, was disappointed to be missing out on what was so obviously a fun occasion. But the top priority was to ensure that everything was on course, with the championship in the balance.
The field in the control now of Nigel Mansell, the pole sitter. Paul Tracy very expectant alongside as we are ready for a race that could in fact decide the IndyCar championship. With a surge of acceleration, the green flag comes out, and we're already running at Mid-Ohio as it gets very crowded down to the first right-hander. Paul Tracy sweeps to the outside. Boiselle closes in and battles with Fittipaldi. One car spins. Second car goes for the inside. Mike Croft already off there. And that's created some confusion in the field. And look at Nigel. Look at Nigel. What's the problem there?
Very, very slow. We saw the contact. Look at Rahal charge up inside Mansell. Mansell's in trouble. He must be on his way to the pit lane. No front wings on that car.
The one thing that Mansell could not afford to have happen here today may indeed have come to pass. Danny Sullivan also rolling to a stop on the race course. So contact, we go to a full course yellow immediately at the conclusion of the first lap here, with Nigel Mansell, the focus of the day, in trouble.
Nigel knew who caused the problem.
Thank you, Paul Tracy. I think the front suspension's all broken.
Even with the race under a full course yellow and proceeding behind a pace car, repairs had to be completed in a hurry in the pits. The crew did a great job, but even so, 2 laps were lost, a major blow so early in the 98-lap race. It was now a case of gleaning as many points as possible. The exit was rapid, spectacular, but arriving on the track ahead of the pace car meant another return to the pits for a stop-go penalty on the restart. Tracy led, Fittipaldi second, Mansell third. And the Mansell misfortunes in the early stages had given the Penskes every encouragement. Red 5 stormed her through the field, this battle with Robbie Gordon typical of an eventful race. But Tracy was leading by 15 seconds after 20 laps. Then, 2 laps later, tripped up behind a slow-moving Scott Pruitt and out of control, headed for retirement against the tyre barriers.
And is that shades of Bobby Rahal last year, where he ran off the corner and almost ended his possibility of a championship? Roger Penske has been on the radio to Paul. Not anymore. Paul unplugged it and got out pretty quick.
Well, here it is again. That's a mistake. That's a driver error. You can't call that anything else. You have to be able to adapt to slower cars being in your way, particularly when you're passing them or lapping them. That's something he must do. He just threw away another race win.
Well, that creates a battle back at the front of the field, as Fittipaldi is now sitting about 7 seconds ahead of this battle, and this is now a battle for second place between Bosell and Al Unser Jr.
And it has also opened up the championship, because Emerson now could possibly be in a position, well, he is right now, to get winner's points, and Mansell has yet to get in a position to score any points.
Well, given the current positioning, we could leave this race with Mansell still at the front of the order, but he would lose 20 precious points to Fittipaldi. That's assuming it stays the way it is, and we're not going to begin to make that assumption.
And we've dropped Teo Fabi from this group right here. Fabi, who is having a great run, hung on to the back of these guys, and he has been dropped. He is no longer behind Scott Goodyear.
If you're tracking Eddie Cheever, he is finally back in the race after a 21-minute repair. They finally got him back out and into action. We watch the battle for second. It continues on. Now here we have Robbie Gordon battling with Arie Luyendyk as they start to chop at one another as they move through traffic and continue their battle now for 9th place. They all moved up when Paul Tracy came off.
Here's Mansell now. Mark Smith is the next attack point here. He comes down the inside, and we do hear
you can see some drops of rain on these camera lenses now.
Oh,
you think this was interesting before? What's going to happen now?
That will open up some difficulties here. Oh, look at this. Gugelmin, Robbie Gordon, and Luyendyk all embroiled in a battle here for position. Gordon has not been able to pass Gugelmin.
Three-way fight for 8th, and they close on Mark Smith in 7th. Yellow flags out there for Paul Tracy as the IndyCar safety team comes to get him off, and it looked like Teo Fabi off the side.
Al Unser Jr. chasing the race leader and trying to limit the room available for Fittipaldi. But the Brazilian's far too wily for that, and Unser came off worse. Though somehow he stayed in the race. Then it was Nigel with Emerson. 2 laps between them, but no quarter given here.
won out his laps. Look at this here, over the curve. Why would he try something like that?
Mansell, as he closed on Fittipaldi, jumped the curve. That's Olivier Briard just behind him, not in contention in this fight. It's not truly a fight in any way for position here. It is simply Mansell trying to unlap himself from Emerson Fittipaldi. Briard runs in 17th place right now, 2 laps behind the lead. Mansell runs in 15th and is trying to get back to a mere lap behind the lead of the race.
And that was a very aggressive move by Mansell. Luckily, there was enough room on the inside. When he knew he wasn't going to be able to make the pass, he drove over the curb, but actually lost about 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 car lengths to Emerson. He's obviously running fast, though.
Let's take a look back at that move in the keyhole. There's Nigel to the inside.
He's 2 car lengths behind him when he makes his lunge. Now he realizes he can't make it. Up over the top of the curve, almost hit the back wing of Emerson and goes wide. Aggressive move by Nigel Mansell, didn't quite pull it off.
Has to take the straight line there for a moment, get to the asphalt, and then turn the car. How'd you like to have been Briard at that moment to watch all of that? Best seat in the house, but not one I would have liked. So there's Fittipaldi sitting just ahead of Mansell. Again, not a battle for position. The championship fight goes on.
Emerson, because he's in the championship fight, if he sees Mansell coming down the inside, he may elect to actually give him a bit of room because he will have realized what happened back in the keyhole. He doesn't need to have any part of an incident with Mansell right now.
So the fight on the circuit, though not a fight in contact, is Fittipaldi and Mansell. Gary Gerald, you have something on these two.
Paul, I think Derek hit it right on the nose. We understand here in the Penske camp that they've told Emerson, Mansell gets up there, just let him go on by. They don't want any part of any kind of a duel between the former world champions from F1. So look for that as they continue to work their way around this circuit.
Wonder why you'd even have to begin to tell Fittipaldi something like that. Just a reminder, eh?
Just a friendly reminder. I mean, Mansell is a little bit far behind now. He closes up through this corner here. This is where he made the lunge. Is he close enough this time? No, he's not.
While we watch these 2 world champions, the reigning world champion and a 2-time world champion, Emerson Fittipaldi, both the Andretti family and the Fittipaldis had some pretty good results in F1 today.
They did. Here you go. Here you go. Watch what happens here. Side by side, Emerson doesn't need to contest it. Move to the left. Let him go. It's not a race. Remember, you're racing for the championship, Emerson.
So Emerson claimed his 3rd win at Mid-Ohio, a win that kept his championship hopes alive going into Nazareth. Nigel's reward for a grueling drive, a point for pole and 1 for 12th.
Nigel said that Tracy got into him and, took him out. We had to come in and we had to change the nose and the left front toe link, which put us down 2 laps, and he was able to make a lap up on the racetrack. But the guys in the pits did a great job, and the car ran great. It's just a shame, that Tracy was as aggressive as he was, and then I guess he took himself out. So all in all, we made 1 point. We made an extra point qualifying, so we're still 14 points ahead, and we just got to go to Nazareth and win the next 2 races.
Well, with my race experience, I think anything can happen in racing, and same situation. I had some of the bad luck in the beginning of the season. Can turn around now. The only thing I feel that we're very strong for Nazareth. I've been testing there. I run very quick there. With the car should be very quick in Nazareth. I think that's showing how IndyCar race is competitive. I mean, that's I think it's the most competitive category in the world, and what happened today, I think, is just going to make very exciting for the last 2 races. I'm very pleased.
Emerson was reminded of his 1974 Formula One championship when he won the last 3 races to pip Clay Regazzoni for the title. Now he closed the gap on Nigel to 14 points, with a maximum of 44 remaining in the last 2 races at Nazareth and Laguna Seca, with Bosell, Tracy and Rahal and the rest now interested observers. Nazareth, Mario Andretti's hometown, but Penske's own circuit where they've dominated in the past. Fittipaldi winning in 1989 and 1990. Nigel's tested here recently. It's a small track with huge character.
Incredible weekend in Prospect because this is another mile oval, but it's a 1 mile oval. Also, if you measure the circuit properly, it's probably just over 0.9 of a mile. It's not exactly a mile. It's a one-groove racetrack. Like Loudon and Milwaukee, you had 2 or 3 lines you could take. Here, there's not 2 or 3 lines. There's one groove, there's one line to take to be quick. And only if you have the cooperation of the other person in front, you can sometimes overtake on the outside or the inside. But, you know, very, very difficult circuit indeed, and a heck of a racing prospect.
A week after claiming his first podium position in Formula One, Michael Andretti was at Nazareth to end speculation about his future. He announced he was to return to IndyCars with Chip Ganassi for 1994, after less than a season with Ron Dennis at McLaren.
I personally don't think, and I know Michael's Formula One career is not over, but next year he'll just come back and just demonstrate what a very talented driver he is, given the equal equipment that he'll be able to have available to him next year.
After this year, when I sit back and look at it, I can surely say that I think I'm a better race driver for it and a better person for it. I think I learned so much about people, about everything, about life, about myself, and had I not done it, I think then I would have regretted it. So I'm not saying I'm done. I mean, it's still very much open for me to go back there, but for right now, with the way the situation was, I felt that I wanted to not let this option with Chip Ganassi go by, and you know, I'm very happy with the way it all happened.
The weather was not kind at Nazareth. Saturday's qualifying session was wiped out, the circuit awash, and so the field lined up in championship order on the grid. Mansell ahead of Fittipaldi on the front row, but the lack of practice handicapped everyone. Meanwhile, the news IndyCar had wanted to hear. Nigel will stay with Newman Haas till 1995.
There was a number of points. I mean, the team was one thing. Living in America, working in America, and the family living here and the children going to school was another. But it goes further than that, you know, the opportunity to do the job and to do the job fairly and have a governing body which, you know, presides over the rules and make sure that, you know, things are run as competitively as they can. And there's no question that I like the rules over here. I think the fairness of play, the different amount of winners that you can have in this series, and everything kept as close as possible is, you know, is good for great racing. And I think you've had some wonderful, if not great, races this year to prove it. There's a whole host of other points as well, which I won't mention, but, you know, comes into effect too. And, you know, I mean, just some which are very important are the sponsors, the attitude of the sponsors, the way they want to go racing, the way they want to support the program. And, you know, of course, above all, the premium thing for me was having an incredible human relationship with Carl and Paul. And, you know, I've worked, and I think this is the biggest compliment I can give for them. I've worked for Ferrari, I've worked for Lotus, I've worked for Williams. I've probably worked for the 3 greatest teams in Grand Prix history. The only other team I haven't actually worked for, which stands out, is McLaren. But we see what you know, what relationship he's had, or what Michael's had there this year. It's not been rosy. It's been difficult. But what I can say is that the relationship I've had with the Newman Haas team is second to none throughout my whole career. And I've been with some great teams, and I'd even go so far as to say that you know, Carl means almost as much to me as the late great Colin Chapman.
That's a record for poles in his year by a rookie.
After the deluge on Saturday, race day was clearer and brighter, and a relaxed Nigel was visited by a young fan. Nigel, second fastest in morning warm-up behind Bosell, but ahead of the Penskes. Roger Penske and Rick Mears deciding race strategy for the 200 miles round the Tri-Oval. The championship contenders at the driver's briefing conducted by starter Jim Swintal. No need for him to be concerned. These two had seen it all before, and unlike some prize fighters, could be expected to battle it out, hard but fair. Nigel's team manager, Jim McGee, once a Penske man, now an integral part of the Newman-Haas setup. Emerson Fittipaldi starting alongside Nigel on the front row, and nothing less than a win will do. For Nigel, good luck from Mrs. Mansell. The sense of occasion, about to take a step into history, unless Emerson could pull off another shock victory. An important decision made. Nigel would run in the race car, despite a water leak in practice. Ready to run. Mansell and Fittipaldi on the first row. Mansell and Tracy on row 2. The first lap was run under yellow, after the starter wasn't satisfied with the initial approach. But second time around, race on. Nigel versus the Penskes for the lead.
As Nigel Mansell drops back a bit, Tracy comes sweeping around and the Penske cars lead this race going into the first corner. Now moving to the backstretch. Mansell sits back in third.
But he soon lost third. Raul Boesel surging through on lap 4 of 200. Nigel experiencing handling problems with the car. Real difficulties on an oval as tight as this. Lap 11, Tracy past Fittipaldi. Good news for Nigel, but still the Penskes had the race under control. Nigel's recovery started on lap 27, having adjusted his line to compensate for understeer. At last, he had a better balance, and he went past Boesel for third again.
Remember that Boesel sits third in the points right now and wants to protect that position as well. Paul Tracy is still our leader here in Nazareth.
And while Paul Tracy's the leader and Fittipaldi and Seaman is in second place, the gap between second and third has opened up to almost 6 seconds. And here's Nigel Mansell, who's in third place.
Wow, that view just there, seeing Scott Brayton just cutting right across the front of Nigel Mansell. We saw him almost get taken out by Hiro Matsushita earlier and give him a wave with the fist. Nigel is dealing with the traffic very well.
There is absolutely nowhere to go, guy, here. If you're caught in an accident in front of you, there's just nowhere to go here.
Just the concrete wall, which calls for bringing an end to the day. And Nigel is just doesn't necessarily have to win this race, but he's out to score points. He wants to score 9 more points than Emerson Fittipaldi scores today, because that will give him the PPG Cup.
And here's a view from on board Bobby Rahal, who won here last year.
Yeah, Bobby Rahal's now currently running in, I believe, 9th place. Had a victory here and, of course, went on to win the championship last year. Not in a position to do that this year, but is running well in his Lola, getting ready for his Honda engines coming in 1994.
Moving up to the battle for second place now, as Mansell comes up and begins to challenge with Fittipaldi. Battle for the track, battle for the championship. Paul Tracy is just a few hundred yards ahead. There's Fittipaldi. You can see the rear wing of his car. Look at Mansell. He weaves left. He leads right. There's Rahal sitting just in front of them.
Oh, this is a great fight. I'm sure Emerson would love to have Tracy back there to help him to block, to be a bit of a blocker on Mansell. Not necessarily to block him trying to make a pass, but I'll tell you what, support from your teammate in this situation when you're under attack is welcome.
And once they got around Rahal, did you see how fast they pulled away? Now they swing, fighting traffic again, as Fittipaldi moves up to the outside of Johansson, and Mansell loses ground.
Bad run in traffic there for Mansell. He was all over Emerson, and suddenly within 1 lap, we said it earlier, it happened so fast here, suddenly he loses almost 2 seconds.
Continuing under green flag racing, 41 laps complete. Tracy still the leader. Fittipaldi was the early leader. He now runs in second. And Mansell has broken off contact for the moment. So it's static at the front of the field as the battle of the championship continues.
And so the race within the race continues. Fittipaldi and Mansell now 1-on-1, mano a mano at this point, with only 8 cars on the lead lap, and the whirlwind continues.
Very much so. They're already beginning to lap, like you say, all the field. Only, I believe, 8 still on the main lap. We've had some guys pit. Scott Brayton has pitted. Danny Sullivan has pitted. And as you also heard, Mauricio Guzman has pitted to make some adjustments to the car. Eddie Cheever, of course, in the King Motorsports car, which is very good on the ovals. We know that with Roberto Guerrero in it. It wasn't doing so well on the street and road courses. He's got a very good car, and he is now running in 8th place. Stefan Johansson has managed to get his way up to 9th, and there's a great battle going on for 2nd place between Emerson Fittipaldi and Nigel Mansell. You saw earlier, Nigel lost quite a bit of ground in the traffic on that last maneuver. He gambled, he went left, and now he went right, and now it looks like he's going to be able to put the move on Emerson as they go into the turn 2.
Indeed, not only that, they're both coming up on Paul Tracy, so both Marlboro Penske cars are slowing down, relatively speaking, to Nigel Mansell, who's charging for the lead, and this is very bad news for the Penske team.
It's going to be a case of which guy is going to get the best fuel economy too, as far as the Lola is concerned, the Ford is concerned, and the Chevrolet V8 is concerned, and that's where a lot of this race could be either won or lost, is right on pit lane.
And remember, guy, in Mid-Ohio last week, trying to make up ground, Mansell went so quickly he had to stop at the last minute to get some more fuel. Let's rejoin Paul Page and Derek Daly with this battle going on between Mansell and Fittipaldi.
At the Bosch Park Plug Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell was able to mount a challenge on Emerson Fittipaldi and get around into 2nd. Now he is beginning to challenge Paul Tracy. So here is a fight for the lead, and look at him dial inside of Tracy. The crowd comes to their feet and begins to cheer as Mansell comes into the lead.
What a move by Mansell. He is so decisive. Now he's outside of Mario Andretti, his
around
teammate.
Mario. He just completely blows an identical car right into the weeds.
Mario obviously is not happy with that car. We hear it is loose. That is the driver's nightmare here. He is loose. But Mansell's car is exceptional at this stage of the race. He did set fastest lap of the race at a 20.8. But the two Penske cars are in trouble after 48 laps.
Brian Till has come into the pits because he's been complaining his car is loose. Mario Andretti just headed down pit road as well. I guess that pass by Mansell convinced him. But every time Mansell makes a pass down the front straightaway, all of the crowd just comes to their feet and begins to cheer. Let's go back and take a look at what put him in this position. Here was Mansell challenging Fittipaldi.
Tries to go outside, gets a great run. Now look, from IndyCar down the inside under braking, and Fittipaldi has nothing to do except allow him to go by. Within 2 laps, he attacked Paul Tracy, which you see right here. Same favorite position down the inside under braking. Wasn't able to pull it off, but boy, did he get a run. Watch this here. Now watch the weaving. Look, look, look. Weaves trying to make sure he lines the car up for turn 1. Decisive moves, passing both Penskes within the space of 2 laps.
And with Mansell doing that and now looking back from his car to the rest of the field, Mansell gains 4 points and now leads by 18 points over Emerson Fittipaldi.
Mansell was now in charge, running at his pace, lapping his teammate Mario Andretti. Tracy, meanwhile, headed for the pits as his car's handling went off. Nigel's problems were now the other cars on the racetrack. Robbie Gordon forgetting that his Lola has got mirrors. With the Penskes in trouble, Scott Goodyear's car came into the picture, up from 10th on the grid to 2nd by lap 53. In pit lane, Roger Penske sensed his title hopes slipping away. Emerson Fittipaldi tried to cling on to 3rd behind Mansell and Goodyear, but Leyendijk passed him on lap 63 shortly before Fittipaldi made his pit stop, a pressure stop, under the direction of Rick Reineman.
Okay, reset your meter, please. We'll go richer this last segment. Hopefully that'll help. Waiting on the rear tires. Put it in gear, put it in gear. Just fuel now. Okay, clear pit, clear pit.
2 laps after Fittipaldi, Red 5 was called in. A feature of the Newman-Haas season has been the excellent work against the clock in the pit lane. This was a stop that really counted, and it was performed with the usual efficiency. A smart stop, and Nigel was off and running again in top spot. He picked up 2 seconds on Goodyear in 2nd place through the brilliant pit work.
And he has everybody in a firm headlock at the moment, trying to get a submission. Mansell is being brutal here on his competitors. He is superb and in total control.
In the closing stages of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi needed something to befall Red 5 if his chances were to revive. Taking nothing for granted, Paul Newman striding the pit lane anxiously, while coolly seeing the job through to the finish, Jim McGee.
As now, he certainly can calculate that he is very, very close. In fact, just a few minutes away from grasping his dream of this year, an IndyCar championship. And what a remarkable accomplishment it is, as it has been throughout the year. He comes to the first race at Australia, sits on the pole, takes the win. Newman Haas Racing. There's Carl. Pretty calm, only one end of the cigar bitten.
Doesn't take Mansell very long to learn these racetracks. Even when he came here for a test session, in less than a day, he was virtually down to the track record. High-speed corners and entering high-speed corners, driving down to the apex, is always where Mansell has been extremely fast. That's the benefit you see him have here now. Mansell has a very good car.
He adapts so quickly on these circuits, especially on the ovals. He seems to love the high speed and the traffic. Now 197 laps complete.
It all unfolds now for Mansell. You just got to be very, very careful, but there may be some position changes going on right behind Mansell.
You take a look just back behind Mansell. Paul Tracy and Robbie Gordon are there as they continue to battle their position out. There's Mansell as he moves around. He should see a white flag next time around. A white flag not only on this race, but now less than a mile to the IndyCar Championship. Paul Tracy got around Gordon, and Tracy now sits in third, the position that Fittipaldi wishes he had.
There's the traffic jam there that includes Tracy, but Emerson is the key. He cannot get close enough to Gordon to make a difference to have Tracy help him.
The final lap now being run at Nazareth, and there is the checkered flag for Nigel Mansell.
Great job, Nigel. Great. Yay! The championship. That's it. We did it. Is Emerson finished? Job, champ. What a deal. Is Emerson finished? Emerson finished fifth. You're the champ. You're the champ. Ah, fantastic! We've won the championship. Yes! You won it! You won it! Everybody, you've just done a fantastic job. I can't thank you enough. We've definitely won the championship as well, yeah? Hey, great job, guys.
And this was just the start of the celebrations in Victory Lane. Undisguised joy. A rookie had clinched the title, the first Englishman and the first rookie since the championship began back in 1916. Congratulations from Scott Goodyear, second at Nazareth, but merely another driver on this occasion. Emotional moments. Roseanne, Nigel's wife, best friend and best supporter. The heart-searching of last season now forgotten. The decision to leave Formula One for the States, now well and truly vindicated. Everyone, it seemed, wanted a share in this most emotional of occasions.
Excellent job.
Paul Newman was there, of course. If you were to make a film of this season, the critics would say it was unbelievable. So much happened. The win first time out at Surfers Paradise, the crash at Phoenix, the operation, recuperation, the dramatic debut in the Indy 500, then the charge to the championship. Carl Haas, who backed his judgment and signed Nigel for the team, and race engineer Peter Gibbons, excellent work in the pit lane. While Emerson Fittipaldi phoned home, having to be content with second in the championship, 25 points behind Nigel.
The Ford Cosworth folks, boy, you talk about the emotion, and I think the thing that surprised everybody, and I want to know if it surprised you, is how readily you've been able to adapt to the ovals.
It's pure racing at its best, and I mean, you saw some of the overtaking maneuvers, 3 abreast, 4 abreast. I just love racing, and I just like this kind of racing. I just forget I'm on an oval, and it's just pure racing.
when you look back over this season, and there are many moments that stand out, and one of those has to be what you endured at Phoenix in only the second or third race of the year. Did you think at that time, with the injury, that you'd be able to come back and contend?
No, I didn't. I mean, it's all credit to the Newman Haas team and all the fantastic sponsors we have, and especially Ford and Cosworth. I mean, the power plant today worked just absolutely beautifully, and you know, the Goodyear tires, and of course the principal sponsors we have, Texaco, Haviland, Kmart, Energizer, all of them have just done a fantastic job. And of course, if you want your Hoovers to clean your house the best, Dirt Devil's the best.
Listen to the pitch man. Now, last week, I know there was frustration at Mid-Ohio, and you worked so hard to get 1 point. And as it turns out now, that may have been the pivotal point that allowed you to clinch today a race before the season is over.
Yeah, I mean, I drove my heart out at Mid-Ohio, and that's a great thing with the regulations.
Here comes Paul Newman now. I think you get the idea of how much it means to this team. And keep in mind, a new contract signed yesterday. Nigel, we look forward to seeing you in an IndyCar again, not only next year, but for a year beyond that at least. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you, and congratulations to the team and the boys, the mechanics. Just did an absolutely outstanding job all year, and it's all credit to them.
And Newman Haas team manager Jim McGee, master race tactician.
I'd like to put that right. You did it the right way. No surrender, no Christmas.
And for Nigel, just one more to record the dream come true.
It makes you feel so proud. I mean, the feelings I have are exactly the same, if not better than the feelings when I won the World Championship last year. And I think last year I had a lot of things going my way. Number one, I didn't have a major accident at the second race, and I didn't have to undergo an operation during the course of last year. And there's no question we had some great backing and great machinery behind us. What makes this so special is how close it was. And, you know, I'm just grateful to all the sponsors, but I can't thank Carl and Paul publicly enough for, you know, making a very, very special dream come true.
It's heavy. Carl, you hold it. Yeah, you got it? All right. You got it? Okay. I ain't going to have a drink like there's no tomorrow. and I'm a teetotal for 14 years, and I know it'll only take two and I'll be anybody's.
It's absolutely terrific. Nigel did an outstanding job. I mean, he didn't worry about a couple of points. He just went for the whole thing. As they say in the States, the whole enchilada. And he drove, if you watched the race, with some great moves, and he lapped the whole field with the exception of Scott Goodyear, which he had a half a lap lead on. And it's great for the whole team, for all our mechanics, our engineers, Paul and I. You know, we're walking on air a little bit right now. We're happy.
Well, it's a great relief, you know. I think that, you know, the team has done a fantastic job, and Nigel's just been awesome, you know, on the ovals. And, you know, it's greater, I think, than any of us ever expected him to be. And Peter, my mate, Peter's been the one, you know, that's been responsible for the setups and, you know, bringing Nigel to where he is right now. I mean, it's been really fabulous. It's been a great year, fun year. And I think, you know, we're looking forward to more, really. I think this is his first year, and he's established himself now. And, you know, we got to look forward to dominating this sport if we can. We'd like to do that.
I certainly enjoyed today. I hope you did, and stick with us because we have Laguna Seca in 2 weeks. And to be able to go there with no pressure will be fantastic. We're playing a lot of golf. And later on tonight, I think I'll have quite a headache, or maybe in the morning. But I'll tell you, these are one of the happiest times I've ever had in my life. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Laguna Seca. You can see this morning that we've got this rolling fog. Everything's been delayed by about an hour and a half this morning, so we're trying to compact everything in. We've got drivers briefing in 5 minutes and the race in just over an hour and a half's time. It makes it very, very interesting, and if you pan around, as you go up the hill, it's almost like driving in the rain, because the vortex from the rear wing separates the fog and then pulls it back down. So for the second or third car, it makes life really interesting. Enjoy it. It should be a great race today, and we'll see you later.
As the race organisers wait for the fog to clear, the new champion is enjoying the limelight. Nigel's very proud of his latest unique achievement. Indy fans have taken him to their hearts.
This last couple of weeks has just been a little bit of a fairy tale from the standpoint of being, up until last weekend, being the current Formula 1 World Champion and the IndyCar World Champion. That's never been done in history before. I think the thing that has astonished me is having won the world title last year. There's a lot of people excited, and we had a lot of congratulatory faxes, telegrams and phone calls. But I have to admit, with a nice smile on my face, that the response has surpassed what happened last year.
Today's course, 84 laps of a very tough, very quick road circuit. Yet another battle with the Penske team for Nigel. It's been the same all season, and they've all loved it.
The one I most enjoyed was Cleveland. So that was incredible dice with Nigel, and for second place. It was not for the lead, but I never had in my racing career dice as close as that, and I think it was just beautiful. I was enjoying so much. I'm sure Nigel was enjoying it.
Well, you know, I'd like to win the race and just try to solidate third place in the championship, and hopefully we can win the race with Ty Mansell for wins this year, 5 apiece. So that's a goal for tomorrow, but if we can't win, then just try to consolidate third.
The field under the control of the pole sitter, Emerson Fittipaldi, his teammate alongside Nigel Mansell, and Danny Sullivan closing up just behind there is the green flag at the start-finish line, and here we go. Through the first set of turns. A complete turn back now, taking a look back from Nigel's car as Goodyear, Sullivan, and Lyondike in the fight. Sullivan and Lyondike side by side there. Mario Andretti comes in behind.
Great start by Sullivan, but a tremendous start by Paul Tracy. He got just a half a car length on Emerson, and he began to move down. Emerson backed off, and Tracy had the line. There's Johansson.
Johansson in the field right behind Mario Andretti. The car running fine to this point. We'll definitely keep an eye on that for you. At the front of the field, it is Paul Tracy, then his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. We look at the rest of the field as they come up the hill through turn 5. They come now all the way to the top of the hill. And Paul Tracy makes his first pass down through the corkscrew.
There's no doubt Tracy was disappointed after qualifying. He was in P1, position 1, until Emerson on the very last pass of the checkered flag grabbed away that pole position from the young star in Penske's stable.
Coming around to the completion of the first of 84 laps, 186 miles. Paul Tracy, there's Fittipaldi, and look at the contrails with the heavy humidity come off of the rear wing surface of his car as he turns down into the corner.
Testing is so vital. Emerson was the one that came here. Oh, look at Tracy gets the wheels off on the outside. That's the dust and the sand that we spoke about earlier. But Johansson claws his way past Mario.
Exactly what you suggested at the starting, Derek, is when they kick off the course like that, it sprays everybody behind him. Was it a factor, though, in Johansson getting past Mario?
No, it wasn't. Johansson already made the pass under braking down into turn 2. Turn 1 is the little kink at the top of the pit straight, and that very tight left-hander is what we call turn 2. You can hear Mansell grab those gears all the way down through the gearbox to third gear. Third gear might sound a bit high, but remember they use 6-speed gearboxes here. So third gear, in fact, is like a first or a second gear of years past. And of course, these engines pull so well from down low in the rev range, you actually can use a higher gear than you could use, say, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Mansell 6 has ground to make up now, but very soon the challenge will come from Bobby Rahal, a 4-time winner on this course, who closes in now just behind Mansell. Here's the view from his car. as they went into the last corner. Watch the wing.
Now what happened here? He turns in. Oh, I see what happened.
Oh, it didn't come off accidentally.
That's what it was. Mansell did a rodeo ride up over the top of Scott Sharp's car. Wasn't able to make the pass. Wheels contacted. I wonder, is Mansell's right front suspension now broken? Here it is again. It's under braking for turn 11, the slowest corner on the racetrack. Makes a commitment down the inside. Doesn't get close enough. Scott Sharp turns in, doesn't see Mansell. Up over the top, knocks the rear wing off, loses a couple of positions himself, and sends Scott Sharp back to Tony Bettenhausen for hopefully a spare rear wing, and he can continue.
One incredibly lucky man, I would say, Nigel Mansell. That could have flipped the car right through the air.
Behind Mark Smith, moves aside, Mark moves to the left, Mansell goes through. I'm looking to see, is there any damage on Mansell's car on that right front wing? I don't see anything, so it looks like it was literally just a suspension wheel-to-wheel contact, and we presume nothing has bent.
Take a look at this onboard camera. We can study the suspension parts. They all look straight. Now, despite that contact, it looks like he's gotten away with it. 14 laps to go for the 1993 PPG IndyCar World Series. If those belts are very loose, it doesn't seem that Paul Tracy is beginning to show it. He's actually been inspired by the presence of Fittipaldi just behind him and has been pulling away.
I mentioned 6-point harnesses. There are 2 around his waist, 2 around his legs, and 2 over his shoulders. But the one buckle holds everything together. When you release it, everything suddenly releases.
So for the moment, this fight for the lead is broken off. There are no other fights in the field. It remains static. Car off in the turn 2 as it slides off the edge of the course. We can't see who that is.
Well, there you have the end of the 1993 PPG World Series, and what an eventful race that was. We had lots of comings together with back markers. Unfortunately for me, I came together with Mark Smith at the end of the straight, and my wrist got whiplash. It's badly sprained and it could be broken, but I'm still smiling. We won the championship. It's a bit unfortunate. Emerson Fittipaldi had a close one too when he was overtaking Hiro Mashuta. And what can I say except stay with us and look back over the season and see how it's all gone.
Great job, Nigel. Great. Yay! The championship, that's it! We did it! Is Emerson finished? Job, champ! What a deal! Is Emerson finished? Emerson finished 5th. You're the champ. You're the champ! Ah, fantastic! We've won the championship! Yes! You won it! You won it! Everybody, you've just done a fantastic job. I can't thank you enough. We've definitely won the championship as well, yeah? Hey, great job, guys.